Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop. And today we're going to be doing a versus video between the Nike Giannis Freak 6 and the Nike Sabrina 2. So obviously these are both Nike hoop shoes and they're both very good performers and also pretty similar in price. And the overall shoe is pretty similar as well, right? Then how it feels and how it performs. So yeah, the Sabrina 2 retails for $130, and if you want, you can customize it for $160, which I feel like a lot of people have done. And for the Freak 6, it retails for $140 for the general release colorways. This colorway specifically is $150, but general release is $140, so it's a $10 price difference. And if you guys do want to cop either of these shoes, I'll try to leave an affiliate link in the description box. If you do choose to get either of these shoes, it does help me out if you buy it through the affiliate link in the description box, or there will be the pictures underneath this video, or I'll try to leave a link right over here. But yeah, I mean, both of these shoes are really nice performers, especially for guards, extremely responsive. So I'll try to tell you guys which one's a little bit better or better suited for you, right? Because like I said, I really enjoy playing in both of these shoes, and I feel like they're both really great performers, and I think it'll just come down to personal preference which one is better for you, right? So anyways, let's get it started off with the tracciones. And if we're talking about pure kind of like stops, like just how hard it stops, especially on a clean court, they're both really nice, but I would say the Sabrina 2 stops a little bit harder, right? So yeah, I guess the Sabrina 2 on how hard it stops on a clean court edges out the Zoom Freak 6 a little bit, but the Freak 6 is still really nice, and you can't go wrong with the Freak 6 on a clean court, right? If you're playing on a dusty court, they're both really nice. You know, they both pick up very minimal dust, and if it does pick up dust, you just do a slight wipe on both of the shoes and you should be good to go. So dust performance is pretty similar as well. And also for squeak, they're both very loud and high pitched, which of course has nothing to do with performance. But if you want the overall louder squeak, I'll say the Sabrina 2 is a little bit louder for the squeak, but the Freak 6 still has a very nice loud high pitched squeak. So there's that if you were wondering that. And also for durability, I don't know. I feel like they'd be around the same, you know? And I feel like the Freak 6 is a little bit harder for the rubber, just a tiny bit, and has a little bit more kind of surface area. It has a little bit more rubber, so I feel like this will be just a tiny bit better, but they're both pretty similar for outdoor use. I would say it's okay, right? Not the best, but also not terrible. So yeah, they're both really nice for traction. It's just the Sabrina 2 is just a tiny bit better, just a tiny bit, right? And now moving on to the heel to toe transition, very similar as well. So here in the heel, we have, it's really soft, right? For the Freak 6, you have a nice bit of compression too. And then coming here into the forefoot, we have a nice curved shape, you know, not super curved, just a little bit, you know, it's a little more of a flatter shape than most other hoop shoes. And same thing with the Sabrina 2, you know what I mean? It's very soft here in the heel. We have a nice rounded shape. So that feels really nice and smooth and not clunky at all here in the heel for the Sabrina 2, but also the same amount of curve here in the forefoot. And as far as yeah, I mean, so if you want a really smooth and fluid feeling shoe, the Sabrina 2 is gonna give you that. The Zoom Freak 6 is a little bit stiffer, especially here in the midfoot, but we still have a good amount of forefoot flex, right? Just the torsion support's better here in the Zoom Freak 6. There seems to be a midfoot chain plate here in this shoe, but not the Sabrina 2, right? So yeah, the overall heel to toe transition, extremely smooth, not super springy either, you know? So there's that. Moving on to the cushioning setup. So the cushioning setup, I would say is the most different, you know, but although it's still pretty similar, you know what I mean? So they're both using Cushlon and they're both using a forefoot zoom unit. However, the Sabrina 2 is a dual density Cushlon. So there's a softer Cushlon on the inside of the shoe and a stiffer Cushlon on the outside, right? But still, it's soft, and I would say the Sabrina 2 is a little bit softer for the heel compression. It just feels a little bit softer for some reason. I don't know why. But for the Zoom Freak 6, it still has a nice bit of compression here in the heel, right? But it feels a little bit stiffer, just a tiny bit. But also, the biggest difference I would say is the court feel. And the Sabrina 2 definitely has better court feel. It's just lower to the ground. I mean, the Freak 6 has good court feel. It's just the Sabrina 2 has one of the best court feels that you can get right now. It's just super duper low. So that's why it feels a little bit different, you know, like when I was playing both of the shoes at the same time. That's what I noticed pretty much the most. And also the Sabrina 2 being a little bit softer for the heel compression. But that's about it, right? Overall impact protection, I would say it's around the same, you know, because the Sabrina 2 is still pretty dang nice. So overall impact protection, you know, pretty good. And you have that little bit of bounce in the forefoot as well from the forefoot zoom in both of the shoes. So yeah, the biggest difference are those two things, you know, the court feel and also the heel compression, which the Sabrina 2 is just a tiny bit softer for. So there is the cushioning setup there. Moving on to the upper. The upper also is pretty dang similar feeling, right? So here in the toe box, just look, they're both really soft in the toe box. I would say the Freak 6 is a little bit softer, but the Sabrina 2 is still really, really soft, you know what I mean? And not the best for support, you know, not the most supportive uppers for both of these shoes, obviously, but they were adequate for me personally. So yeah, it's just really, really soft, although the Freak 6 is just a tiny bit thinner. And then over the eyelets, we have a material over it, right? So for the Freak 6, we have this like synthetic leather. And then for the Sabrina 2, we have this kind of like, what is this? I don't know, but it's another material over the eyelets as well, so it stiffens up the upper just a tiny bit. And then for the tongue, we have literally the same amount of padding. It's also a half booty construction tongue, giving you a better overall one-to-one fit. And in the ankle area, let's see, it's around the same as well, right? On the sides, I'm feeling it, and it just is pretty much the same. And then in the back of the shoe is pretty much the same too. So yeah, it's just a very similar feeling upper, you know what I mean? Like really thin upper, and just like a not super supportive but adequate for support. And yeah, and the back of the shoe is very similar too. And so yeah, as far as the upper quality goes, however, I don't know, the mono mesh here in the Freak 6 doesn't feel super durable, but then the Sabrina 2, the quality doesn't feel the best either. So yeah, there is the upper there. And now moving on to the fit, I went up half a size for the Sabrina 2 and true to size for the Freak 6, and they both fit me pretty dang well. The Sabrina 2, however, there is a little bit of length, so I feel like if I went true to size, it would have been a little bit better for length. And also here in the toe box, I would say the Sabrina 2 is a little bit more snug, but also it's not that big of a difference. It's just the Sabrina 2, it just kind of like scrunches up a little bit more. The Zoom Freak 6, not as much, because we have this kind of like underlaying material, right? It makes it a little bit stiffer here in the middle of the outsole. So a little bit of a difference, but not by that much, right? Also width wise, it's pretty much the exact same too. Around normal width, you know what I mean? So yeah, the fit is very similar. And now moving on to support and lockdown, also very, very similar, extremely similar. It's just the Sabrina 2 has a lateral counter here in the forefoot, but it's just this softer type of foam, so it's not even like super duper supportive with that. But the Zoom Freak 6, for some reason, I didn't really have any issues with the forefoot lateral containment. You know what I mean? Like my foot wasn't coming out of the footbed that much, which is weird. You know, I still don't know why it was good for that, but yeah, so I'll tie it up for that. And also we have an internal TPU heel counter for both of the shoes too. And as far as the lateral stability goes, they're probably around the same. Yeah, I mean, the Sabrina 2 has a little bit of an outrigger, but the Zoom Freak 6 is just a wide base. So lateral stability also is very nice for both of the shoes. I would say kind of like also another difference in feel of the overall shoe is because the Zoom Freak 6 has a little bit more of torsional support, it just seems a little bit more sturdy feeling, you know, when I was playing in it, versus the Sabrina 2, which is just, it's really, really flexible and stuff like that. I'm not saying it's worse, it just feels a little bit more fluid, a little bit more flexible, and it felt like I had to use my feet and my ankles a little bit more, you know what I mean, when I was playing in the Sabrina 2s versus the Zoom Freak 6. And as far as lockdown goes, I didn't really have any issues with a heel slippage or anything like that, you know? So my foot felt very locked into the shoe. And like I said, the overall upper isn't super supportive in both of these shoes either. So the upper feels pretty similar, you know what I mean? And now moving on to the weight of the shoe, they're both very lightweight. I feel like the Sabrina 2 might be lighter, right? No, I mean, the Freak 6 comes in at 11.4 ounces. Let's check the Sabrina 2. Yeah, 10.9. So it is a little bit lighter for the Sabrina 2, right? And it definitely feels a little bit lighter, a little bit more fluid like I just said. However, the Zoom Freak 6 is still extremely lightweight, very minimal for the upper, and pretty dang responsive. And when I was playing in both of these shoes, I felt very quick because the traction is really good. The cushion is responsive, although the Sabrina 2 is a little bit lower to the ground, which, I don't know, like a cushion that feels a little bit more lower to the ground helps me feel a little bit quicker for some reason, you know what I mean? But either way, I felt very quick playing in both of the shoes. And now moving on to the ventilation, they're both really nice, right? We have good airflow through the material in both of these shoes, especially here in the Freak 6. There's a lot of airflow through the mono mesh, and then with the Sabrina 2, we have pretty good airflow for the Sabrina 2. It's just, I feel like the mono mesh is just a little bit thinner and just also allows for a little bit more airflow, so it's a little bit better for ventilation for the Freak 6, but the Sabrina 2 is still pretty dang nice. And now moving on to the aesthetics. I mean, yeah, you can't really beat the Sabrina 2. You know what I mean? But I feel like the Freak 6 definitely grew on me a lot, and I feel like it looks pretty good. But I'm gonna have to edge it out to the Sabrina 2. So tell us what you guys think looks better down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, yes, so as far as the overall performance goes, it's very similar and it's really hard to choose a wrong shoe. You know what I mean? So you're gonna be good to go either way. You know, it's just, of course, the price difference, but also it's just a $10 price difference. So it's also not that big of a deal. So the overall like biggest differences, of course, are the court feel. The court feel is better in the Sabrina 2. So if you want that, if you want to feel a little bit lower to the ground, go with the Sabrina 2. And also another pretty big difference is that like I said, the Zoom Freak 6 feels a little bit more sturdy, especially for the sole of the shoe versus the Sabrina 2, which is a lot more kind of flexible. You know what I mean? So you're gonna be using your foot muscles, your arch a little bit more, your ankles a little bit more, which I don't really mind all too much, but you might mind. So I think those are the biggest differences. But in terms of support for the overall upper, very similar. The traction is really good in both of the shoes. All the Sabrina 2 is a little bit better. And also the cushion, I would say, is around the same, besides the Sabrina 2 having a little bit softer cushion here and the heel. So yeah, for me personally, however, I would go with the Sabrina 2. The Sabrina 2 with slightly better traction, better court feel, softer heel. I like a little bit better. But I do like the Zoom Freak 6, like how sturdy it is. It feels a little bit more sturdy. I like that about the Freak 6 a little bit more, but the Sabrina 2 has a couple more things going for it for me personally, right? But again, if you're a guard and you want a responsive shoe, they're both really nice. And also, I guess, you know, the Sabrina 2 is $10 cheaper. So there's that. But anyways, that about concludes this versus video. Again, if you guys do want to cop either of these shoes, I'll try to leave an affiliate link in the description box. But that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.